Okay, we are back in public session. First item on the agenda is the pledge. Paul Regan, will you lead us in the pledge?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, we have the non-public and public meeting minutes of December 15th and December 22nd.
I'll make a motion to accept the non-public and public meeting minutes of December 15th and December 22nd, 2022 as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Anita. Any comments or questions on the minutes?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Did you want to?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to seal the non-public minutes indefinitely.
Second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? That's 4-0. Consent agenda?
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda for January 5th, 2023. Accounts payable, payment manifest dated 1/5/23. Payroll manifest dated 1/5/23. Distribution of funds from the Fire Department Equipment Reserve Fund in the amount of $2,165. Distribution of funds from the Sewer Capital Reserve Fund in the amount of $22,735.66.
Nice easy one tonight.
I'll second.
Seconded by Dawn. Any questions or comments or items want to be discussed further? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, abstentions, 4-0. Thank you. We are going to change the schedule just a little bit. We're going to bring Chief LaRoche up and talk about the public safety building because he has a basketball team he needs to coach.
I don't think you saw your comment, so you should come up.
Sorry.
No, I didn't recognize it was in
I know.
Nobody knows what he looks like with his clothes on.
So when it came in, I was like,
Hat.
what's that?
Bean cap.
I didn't see the bald head. So.
Put it back on.
I'll just point out really quick before Ben starts, under number 6, SB 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 are regarding the expedited minimum impact permitting that was submitted. And then number 3 is regarding the discussion that the chiefs will be having with you.
Okay, very good. Welcome.
Well, hi. So we're coming in tonight to give you an update on how the public safety building project's going. I sent you a couple-page document kind of highlighting where we're at with that, and it's certainly not great, and it's not great news. So for everybody listening, about the end of December, middle of December, whatever time frame it was, we were invited down to Rochester to meet with Gruen relative to the bid process had pretty well wrapped up on their end, and for them to give us an update on where those numbers came in at, as well as, you know, the heads up that we would probably be looking at some cuts. So we walked into that a little blind, and unfortunately the first number we saw is that their projected cost for the project was up $601,000 after bidding. Obviously that's a substantial amount of money, and it's not money that was approved. So we sat at that meeting and we came up with a list of items. They had a list of proposed items, and we kind of talked about a few more areas where we could make some cost savings. And that list, you know, is pretty detailed, but I think the benefit is most of that list, that roughly $207,000 that we walked away from that meeting thinking we could remove, was items that you could go back to afterwards and get them done. Not necessarily from tax money, but you could certainly reach out to a company and say, hey, would you sponsor, window treatments or lockers for the locker rooms or appliances, or work with somebody to make certain signage that was cut out, and all things that you can build the building and go back and do afterwards. It's not going to cost you any more money to do them later. But unfortunately, that still leaves you roughly $400,000 shy. We reached back out to Gruen as a function of the project team getting together. We had some beliefs that there was a substantial markup basically in each line category. They claim that there's not, that the roughly 15% that they assume to make on this project is 7% contingency, and if it's not spent, then they retain it in the traditional design build contract. And their OHP line is basically 8%, their overhead and profit line, coming to roughly 15%. So I basically backed out 10% from every line, because the conversations that we had had over the 3 or 4 years now that we've been dealing with them is that would kind of exist there. And certainly in a normal scenario, in a normal environment, maybe a commercial project would have that kind of profit attached to it. But that company worked with us and sat at the high school 8 months ago and said we could build this building for $4.8 million, and now we're at $5.4 million. So something's got to give. Their claim is that it can't, and their answer to that was to provide a pretty substantial list of cuts that are now things that are big money and are going to cost big money to do down the road. 2 of those I really think, one probably need to be done now, and that is the removal of the radiant slab heating in the apparatus bay. That's a huge portion of the energy efficiency that Farmington sees in their building. They did get updated numbers. They're claiming that's a roughly $107,000 savings. Again, then where do you find another $107,000 to make this work? But we just got those numbers today. So, and the other big one that again, today, if we're moving into this building a year from now, we can do without the rear parking lot, but it's full. It's full the day we occupy it. So this idea that we're going to build a building that 50 plus years from now will never have to accommodate any more space needs, that includes parking. And then certainly, if the rough number is $200,000 to remove that, that number probably looks substantially higher when you're bringing back in Morrison Hiltz Dirt Work Company to come and do that around a 20,000 square foot building versus nothing, and so, but again, it's an option that gets a building built within the price that we have funded at this point. So basically, when they came back with that number today, it still leaves us about $18,000 kind of over budget. They believe that provided that we could get a contract signed realistically before the end of the month, that'll allow them to lock in pricing, and they could absorb that in contingency and not assume that they're going over. That's the response so far. My take on it, and I put it in this, on like the last page, is the pre-construction contract allows us the ability, it says they'll maintain all the bid documents and whatnot, and allows us the ability to access those and copy them and utilize them. And I think that request should effectively come through the board. Yeah. I can make it tomorrow in letter form, but I think it should be a request of the board. And there's a couple of reasons. One, I think that will really help us look and say, there is a lot of fluff or there isn't a lot of fluff. Conversations that we've had with Gruen and we've had with local contractors, it's Jim and I's opinion that I'd really like to see who those contractors are, more than just, well, it's this guy and it's this guy, and who did and didn't bid on this, because we've already talked to local companies that would take on this type of project that either were given information that led them not to bid or weren't contacted even though they requested to be on the bid list. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they would have been the low bidder at the end of the day, but to To be in a position where they're excluded at this point, I don't know that we can save this, you know, $300,000 or $400,000 gap that we really need to come to, but at least maybe, you know, that can salvage either A, the whole project as we anticipated, or at least salvage some of those other things like radiant floor heating that you can't go back in and do afterwards. Okay. You know, the parking lot may be what the parking lot is, but yeah. So
you're,
again, the idea was to give you an update and really what I think the next step should be, and in an effort to potentially have a contract signed before the end of the month. You know, maybe it's at the next meeting, but I think crew needs to come in here and really be more of the bearer of bad news than us. You know.
You want to write that letter? You said.
Yeah, I have it mostly written. Christina and I had talked. She's off tomorrow, and I just, you know, provided that there was something to go back to and say, hey, the board's asked us, you know, as a function of the meeting.
Do you want me to sign it as well?
If you would like to, yeah. I can get it done in the morning and just swing by anytime.
Okay. Do we have consensus on that?
Yeah.
I can stop by tomorrow.
Yep.
Question?
Yep.
This memo will be posted on the webpage so that people know what's happening. Again,
If you want this exact memo, yes.
I-
Or do you want?
And for the sake of the camera and people watching, I asked the chief to just touch on the other. You talked about 2 of the 4 items on here that they suggested for removing to get to that around 400,000. If you want to touch on the other 2 for the sake of people watching in the camera.
Yeah, so there's, in the memo, there's the entire list, and I can hit it pretty quick. It's top course of asphalt, which isn't really the worst idea to potentially have that set for a couple years.
Excuse me, Chief, I was talking about the 4 on the back page.
Yeah, I was just gonna hit these.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
So delete landscape allowance, it'll still be hydro seeded. This was, you know, maybe there's a split rail going up a property line and some shrubbery in the front. Change the brick veneer, you know, that was still in at this point. It would be completely vinyl sided. Do some different methods of bulletproofing the vestibule and some windows. Again, I didn't put a bunch of details in because that's not super smart for us to do, but it'll still be very bulletproof. It'll just be done in a different manner.
Yeah.
The holding cells were designed to be a lot more rugged than they need to be. Most places that Jim and I had toured, you know, going to a more wood reinforced wall was really the best way to do it. You're still satisfying the need. There were some windows that were put in there. Those were out. It does delete all interior and exterior signage, which I'm not entirely sure that you can do. You still have emergency signage and exit signage, but like bathrooms are usually required by ADA to be signed. Lockers in the men's and women's locker rooms, window treatments, which is fine. And really like any parking lot lighting would just be like exterior wall mounted lighting versus any sort of pole lights or whatnot. And some changes in the floor material. So again, when you look at that list, not a huge deal. We could, you know, live without these items. Those others.
To be clear, that's for the camera. That's the $207,000.
That's the initial 200,000.
That was the initial list that we came up with them at a meeting with things that we felt we could probably solicit grants for or do some fundraising for. Those were items that you could go back later and do. And then the additional list that he has.
So the list of the big cut items, and I just want to make sure there's not anything else on here that I didn't include. We backed out the hose tower because we don't really need it anymore, and it worked in a mezzanine just to have a little bit of extra storage. That's cut. So that's gone now.
That's on
the next section.
It's a new one that got put on this list. That list of 4 items that Carol was talking about. So the rear parking lot is one of them. The radiant floor heating in the apparatus bay is one of them, one of the big ones. Removes appliances from the kitchen areas, and then removes the bump out in the middle 2 fire bays. If you happen to know the picture as well as I do, there's a bump out. The idea behind that was Especially with that hose tower in the back, it would allow you, as you know, maybe 10 years down the road when you replace a fire truck, that you could fit it in there. We took that out, but there's still buttress walls. So I think in the final design, we're still gonna be fine. There'll still be enough room. But, you know, 48 years from now, like we are now, it'll probably be, those two bays will be back to kind of tight. But, you know, if we had to do it, we have to do it. But again, that's another item that you're not going back down the road and pouring new footings in front of the apparatus bay and new block walls. So, those are the big items on that. Roughly $380,000 more that they were able to find in there.
Okay. All right, I will see you about 11 o'clock tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right.
I'll be there.
How are we heating and cooling it? What's the plan currently? Is it fossil?
Yes, electric and fossil.
The slab's heated by fossil?
The slab's not gonna be.
The slab
heated
ain't
by
gonna be heated by anything.
Thank God, they want to remove the.
Yeah,
radiant heat.
That's one we should probably think of trying to figure out how to keep it though.
Where
That is a big radiant heat in Florida.
Yeah.
That was a huge deal with the, for the apparatus.
And Farmington has that, right?
Yeah.
Because when we went down a tour, they were very, very positive about that.
Right.
That it was a great way to do it, so. And then how far do we go before we change this so much that it's outside of what the voters approved in the warrant article?
Great question. Yeah.
It's not
In
gonna
the
look-
end-
it's not gonna look like
In
a
the
picture.
end, they voted for a police and fire building that was 4.8 million, yeah.
Yeah,
But that-
the details could be changed and
But your point is not,
That's,
Yeah.
you know,
is-
yeah.
yeah, it's well taken,
Yeah.
yeah.
Before you go back and say, well, this is not what we wanted.
That's a crappy spot to be in.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome.
All right.
I'll get it done. It's mostly done.
See you tomorrow.
We were kind of expecting this with the
Yeah.
economy early, even all through the year.
Right.
Not this much, I don't think.
Yeah,
I really thought we'd start to see some
Yeah.
capture on the material cost. I really did, because you hear about how that's coming way back down.
And I think in some ways, when you look at the list that they gave us, there is some of that. Some of it's still up, or it's up more, or whatever. And you saw that. I know as we've talked to other contractors and whatnot, there's still a fair amount, regardless of the rates. There's still a fair amount going on around here. And where you see the two biggest, not the only, but the two biggest increases are HVAC and electrical, which are two supply-wise that are still being hit by increases. And what we've talked to a bunch of people about is you're seeing, you know, like Massachusetts contractors, the money's starting to dry up there, so now they're working their way up. Listen, as long as we can get this building the way we want it to, I don't really care who builds it, to be very honest with you.
Right, yeah, no.
oh yeah.
But the issue is if you could be a mass electrician and maybe you have a New Hampshire license, but if you don't, you're out on this project. So too bad that you need work, but same thing with plumbing and HVAC, right? So your two only licensed subcontractors, that's where you see the biggest increase, because there's still stuff going on in the state, even with 7.5% interest rates.
I would like to see what net they cast on the.
Yeah.
I think that's huge for a number of reasons,
Yeah.
and we may get it back, and they're, you know, good companies, and there's all these bids, and we find that there's not a bunch of fluff or extra in these lines, but it's still part of the decision-making
Right.
process, and
Right.
feeling good about it or less bad about it.
So
Okay.
one more?
Yep.
Just to address what Paul was starting to say, is there, and I think we have already discussed this, I think we've already sort of said no
Right.
to changing the HVAC system to a more energy-friendly system, but is there, and looking at it directly from what's it gonna cost today? Not what it's gonna save down the road, because we have to pay for this construction now. So can you say that if we do something different, that it would cost a significant amount less to build right now?
I don't know the details well enough. Is the HVAC system, just a straight air conditioning system, or is it a heat pump? Do you know? Is it
Or heat also,
So
you know, heat.
it's both. It's air exchange as well as forced hot water for a radiant system. That's done through an on-demand type with storage, super storage and whatnot. But I think that to kind of answer that question, it's a line item. There's X amount of dollars in that line for a conventional fossil fuel system to be installed. If you had some way to comparably, I guess, compete with that, then the plans could be put out and perhaps the HVAC system could be, could be merit. I don't think that the dollars are gonna be there. So I think what you're gonna find is that you absolutely can provide a system for this building, and it could handle solar and geothermal, but I think you're gonna add, we're worried about $600,000, and I think you're gonna do more than that to us with that estimate personally.
It's possible. I don't know.
I don't think it's gonna be a cheaper price, which is kind of the direction we're looking at.
And I think that's where we were. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. I know it's sort of outside the realm of how the conversation is supposed to go here, but with the public, but.
Yeah, I haven't had the time to look at it.
Yeah. Christina, did Mike McNally do the wetlands permit?
Yep.
Just 1 second.
There's, so,
On page, there's some spelling errors. It's not a huge deal. Did it already go in?
yeah, it's already in, there's a letter that's not in there, I'll give this to you. So they applied for the expedited minimum impact wetlands permit, and it's been, they're gonna still review it, but they're not gonna do it as an expedited, because it was missing the Conservation Commission's information.
All right.
So it's gonna be the standard 30-day or longer review. And then I've talked to Mike McNally to make sure that it comes into the Conservation Commission and to the planning board. There won't be any fees for it, obviously, but to come in and talk to them about the impact of that little wetland area.
Okay. All right, thank you, chiefs.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. Sorry, I'm sorry.
So we'll post this as a news item,
Yep.
as public safety
Yep.
building update.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck with your game.
Thanks.
Okay. Next item is the Energy Committee Guidelines Review.
So I gave Paul and and he shared with the Energy Committee the guidelines that you set for the ME Path Subcommittee.
Yep.
So just to give them an idea of kind of what we were looking at. But I went back and tweaked it to take out the stuff that really didn't pertain to the Energy Committee. And I'm sure there's something else that you may want to put in differently. And that's under, all I did was take out the stuff that pertained really to Penny Path and their project. Number 4.
Yep.
I highlighted everything that needed to, I missed highlighting one thing, but needed to be discussed. So any of this is up for grabs. This was just to get something in front of you to look at as far as a draft.
Could you display it, Christina?
I can't. It's the same document I sent you, just I took the Penny Path items out of it. We should probably talk about us. We do this for when we were doing land use, we shared everything on the screens.
Yeah.
So we can start making sure we do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have it?
We have the Penn Bath one, yeah.
So, I changed, and if you're okay, I can read the purpose that I
Yep.
set up with that.
Yep.
And The Energy Committee is an approved committee of the town of Bristol under the direction of the Select Board. The Energy Committee will work with the town administrator and the Select Board to, that should be me, to not take. It should be review and make recommendations on energy efficiency projects and cost-saving initiatives for the town of Bristol and its taxpayers. So that's what I changed the purpose to. I'm not sure if there's something more that
You can put the word resiliency in there.
I might be able to. I just don't want to throw, hang on a minute.
How do we need it for this?
I might be able to too, Carol, hang on. It's in use, hang on.
It's all right, okay.
Do you want me to try and share it?
No, you're
Oh, okay. So that was the purpose, established, I just put in, I don't know when the Energy Committee was established, and unfortunately, there's no records when it was established.
And apparently it's been around a while, because I
Yeah.
remember somebody the other day that said they were on it a long time.
So I didn't know if we even wanted to put established in this, because we don't have, and I noticed there's another typo, it shouldn't be PPSC, but, I
I don't
don't.
know that we need a date, just say established by the town of Bristol Select Board or something like that.
Yep.
1865, put an old one.
The discussion was about whale oil.
Yeah.
Go ahead and challenges, right?
Oh yeah, whale oil lights, there you go. Membership, so we didn't do this with the Penny Path, we didn't set the number of their membership and we gave them direction because they were under the subcommittee under the
Right.
EDC. So the question would be, and we allowed them to have newfound area. So the question would be, do you want to set a number for the Energy Committee? Do you want to set them newfound area or Bristol residents?
I think newfound area is fine, we're happy to take advantage of
Yeah.
talent.
Other idea, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many members are currently? Four? Probably,
How many do you think would be reasonable, I guess?
Well, if it gets to be larger than 10, it gets a little tough to manage to get a
Exactly.
quorum, as you well know, so.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was five.
There's
Is
five
it an odd
online.
number? And
Yeah, five's good.
Well, there's 5 online and then you have Jeff, which makes it, so this online may not be right.
Well, Jeff's part of the 5 is the way we look at it.
So, so I have Paul, Doug, Tricia, Greg, and Daniel.
Yes, except Doug's never attended and never, so he's not really active.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
So 5,
Yep.
and the second part of the question, will there be a required staff member? Currently, Jeff was voluntold to be a part, and I think part of it was because of the solar
Yeah.
array.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether Jeff would like to continue or not on it, but I think he would if the select board wanted him
I
to
think
be the
it's
staff member, so,
the way to go. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But how do you want to say that? There will be a required staff member?
Yeah,
We
Regardless
can say
the
one
name
of the
name.
membership would be a required staff member,
So we don't
be
have to-
5+.
or you want 5+ required staff?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This committee really hasn't had to be sworn in, but what I'm finding from the town's attorney on some of the other committees that we've talked about, when we talked about TAC and LRPC, they said they should have been sworn in by our, so I'm recommending that we put the members will be appointed by the select board and sworn in by the town clerk tax collector's office. Is that something we want to do, and do we want to set term limits?
I have no problem with the swearing in. I mean, are we getting into minutia that
Right.
you might have someone outside the town of Bristol that we
Okay,
just
maybe
talked
so.
about and sworn in by the Bristol?
Can they be, yeah,
Yeah,
No.
that's a good point. So
you know, I don't know if it matters or not, but
we can do appointed by the select board.
yeah.
And do you want any kind of term limits? With the Penny Path, their term limit technically is when they're done.
Right.
If this is gonna be ongoing, we could do 3 or 5 year terms or something, just.
Just remember that there's a finite people interested in the topic,
Right.
so you
Right.
may lose your people and then,
Well, so you can still be reappointed if you're still interested to serve.
oh, I see.
It just wouldn't
Yeah,
be
like
in
planning.
perpetuity.
I see.
Yeah, the planning
Yeah.
board is 3 years, and there's people that have been on for 30.
So that would be carried through all committees then, that theory.
Probably
That's-
should be.
Probably should be standard across the board.
Subcommittees, you may not, because,
No.
their subcommittees are a little different, because your
Right.
subcommittees are.
Well, like you said, the
Right.
path has a given thing, and if they
Right.
achieve that, then they no longer
Then they're-
exist.
Right.
Right.
Your lake water quality
Right.
study group, they have a given scope of
Right.
work,
Yeah.
and once
Yeah.
they've done it, they're
Yeah.
done.
Right.
So, but your other committees, most likely, if
Okay.
that's the way you wanna go.
If we do it for one, we should do it for all, seems.
On the 3 year, yeah,
3 years seems to be common
I think so.
across the board,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Okay. Where's and then the directives were, just tweaked slightly for wording to match the energy committee. Where did I just put this? Sorry.
To match the.
To match the PEMI
Yeah.
path committee, the wording changed obviously slightly. Like the chair of the energy committee will meet with the town administrator to provide ongoing reporting for projects and recommendations to the select board. This way it gives Paul a tool to meet with me, let us know where he's at on his projects, and I can update the board for you. We did talk about, unless you prefer him to come in and update the board occasionally.
No, I think it's fine to meet with you, I guess, and in this day and age, I don't know if we have to say it, but it doesn't have to be an in-person meeting, it could be
It could be
a
a
phone
call.
conversation or anything that, yeah.
Or an email.
Yeah, anything that would keep
Whichever.
that, yeah,
And
okay.
that's calendar year? Is that,
I didn't put an actual, I didn't put a time frame
Yeah.
on this, but I would think depending if you look at number 2, and number 2 again is up for negotiation. The Energy Committee will establish a yearly task list. The yearly task list can be modified, but its purpose will be to allow the select board to provide feedback on proposed project before work is begun. And some of this is to give Paul and the Energy Committee guidance, because
Right.
if you don't support a project,
Right.
you don't want them to waste their time on the project either.
Right.
So that's why I suggested yearly task lists.
Yeah.
And it could be that it's just a yearly update, maybe
Yeah,
the task list
year,
never changes.
bulleted list? So-
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
No, it makes sense.
number 3, that came from the PEMI path as well. There will be no proposed budget for work completed by the committee. All costs associated with the work of the committee that would be borne by the town must first be approved by the town administrator. Obviously, they're gonna have some costs, potentially printing, if they have something that they
Yeah.
need to do.
Yeah.
If maybe they're advertising a project, they might have those costs, but,
We made some signs for the,
yeah,
for the solar array, where we did that precedent.
yeah.
We had some signs made.
Because there really isn't a budget for
Right.
some of these committees, but if we had to make signs, we could probably pay for it out of the executive budget if we
Yeah.
needed to do something like
Yeah.
that, but.
okay,
Number 4, the Energy Committee is required to provide notice of meetings, and this was missed in the PEMI path, so that is on under the TA tonight to add that line. The attorney is saying that we need to have, provide notice, and we need to take minutes and follow the statutory requirements, even for the Lake Water Quality Study Group, because when the Lake Water Quality Study Group was created, the thought was they weren't gonna add any work to anybody. We've told them now, you need to post your meetings and you need to take minutes, so, and we've let Bill knows that for the PEMI path, so we just put that in there. The unfortunate thing is that they no longer have a minute taker. She has resigned most of her position, she's kept
Right.
one committee, and I haven't been able to get in touch together with you, but, so there was somebody on the committee who will have to take the minutes, but,
Yeah, I did it the last one, I'll do it.
yeah,
That's how it always was for years.
yeah.
What do you post though? How do you post? I mean, do I give them to you and you post?
You and I can work on that, if the board, so you may not have to come to me with your agendas, you may be able to just send them straight to Kate.
Right.
You just have to do 24-hour notice, but we can work on that.
Oh, sure.
You good with that?
And
Yep.
meeting minutes will be posted somewhere.
You look like want to ask me questions, sorry. I can't really touch these much, they already fell apart once tonight, so, but, I'm sorry, Paul, I didn't hear you.
Submit the meeting minutes to you and you'll post?
Um,
To Kate and he'll post?
We can define that process for you, yep, we can do that. The next ones came straight from, number 5, came straight from the penny path as well. That's the same exact wording that was in the penny path. Do you want me to read it for the public or?
Yeah.
Information provided to the public, in parentheses, newspaper, local media, social media meetings, such as but not limited to advertising, letters to the editor, articles, or live presentations on behalf of the town must be approved by the town administrator or select board. Projects or portions of a project not supported by the select board should not be included in any advertising by the committee or by any member acting as a representative of the committee. Any committee member may submit their own personal submission if it shall not in any way indicate association with the committee or the town of Bristol. And that's the exact same wording that you did discuss in the penny path.
Yep.
That does put a burden on probably you, Christina, because
Yep.
there's some education here that that you've asked me to do, in fact, you and Denise, for solar, right, for the solar ordinances.
That's different. So you're being asked by the planning board who they do their own. So projects for the select board is different than projects for the planning board. Planning board has to put their stuff on a ballot and they have to go through an extensive process. This board doesn't approve those. The planning board approves that, so the solar ordinance is separate for this. It would be solar exemption, for instance, that if the solar exemption would be different than the solar ordinance. Your solar exemption, if this board didn't support it, then you'd have to represent it as an individual. So,
Yep.
it-
Okay.
All right, I think I understand that one.
It's kind of, we've talked about this as sort of standard industry practice, or if you work in the government, that you can't speak for you can't represent yourself that you're speaking for your employer.
Right.
Unless they have told you it's okay to do so.
Right.
It's kind of a standard.
What comes to mind offhand, I'll just point it out, is community power. So
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
The one that comes to mind is community power. Community power is an aggregation approach, and it's got now 27 towns, I think. We're interested in bringing it to Bristol. It will require some education. It will require some discussion, some education. So I can do that independently or do it as part of the Energy Committee, however we want to do it, but I think that it's important that we do it.
that would be a yearly, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would think that would be a yearly task, that would be a thing on the task list.
Yeah.
Because you would be able to provide, go ahead and do that work, and as
Yeah.
long as you're allowing them to do the education piece of it, I don't think that would tie his hands.
Yeah.
It would be when you got to the point where something was, contract was gonna be signed, or an appropriation was
Right.
gonna be made, and if you said no to that appropriation, then you would have to represent it as an individual at that time.
Yeah.
But, is that
Yeah.
correct?
I don't have any issue on the education side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
Number 6, this came also from the penny path. All commitments will be documented and approved by the town administrator and select board prior to being issued. So if you're gonna sign a contract or something like that.
That's how we did it with solar arrays.
And then that's as far as I got. I took, so that was taking from the penny path directives. I took all their miscellaneous stuff out that didn't pertain to energy. Is there anything that you were thinking that needs to be added, either the board or the energy committee?
I'm seeing a lot of shaking heads.
Okay.
No. Okay. And I think I heard you say you didn't see anything.
I don't see anything, nothing
Yeah.
comes to mind that should be there.
Okay.
I think it all makes sense.
Good. We'll move forward and we'll get that at the next meeting.
So they'll actually vote, sign it, and then once it's signed, I'll send you a signed copy. And we're keeping an originals document.
Yep.
Deb's helping me with that, and it will be a binder with all of any of these guidelines that we've set, so.
Great,
Okay.
perfect.
I'll bring it over. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Does that cover? I think it does. Holiday lunch discussion. So, for the purpose of the camera, we had to postpone our holiday appreciation luncheon for the town employees, and due to weather conditions. Right. Thank you. And right.
Yeah, lovely storm.
I wish for one another one. And so what days were you looking at?
In the email, I
Yeah.
put, I talked to Les too, and our suggestion is closer to the end of the month.
Okay.
But we were also trying to keep it on a Friday
Yep.
as well.
So we're looking
And
at
then
the 27th?
we put the 20th or the 27th. We haven't reached out to Mark yet because we wanted
Okay.
to make sure
Okay,
first.
yeah,
We have what date you were thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's one or the other, it would be better for Mark if you wanted to leave that option. Maybe he's got something else booked on the 20th, so we would move it.
I think, well, without speaking for the rest of the world, but I think at this point, we would take what?
Either.
We would take what he would like us to have.
Okay.
We would
If that-
work with them
Yeah,
on it.
And then I would like to just make sure that none of the costs change. There potentially would be a cost change anyway, because more people may be able to go that
right,
can't
depending
go.
on the number of people, yep.
Sorry. That can't go at the holidays normally,
Yeah.
so.
Okay,
But, okay, so we'll try for one of those dates.
yep. We have an acceptance of unanticipated revenues.
It is only just a copy of it might be in there, in your packets, on your computers, I think you only need to motion. It's under number 7, unanticipated revenues. So this is we kind of had a heads up at the last meeting, and I let you know that the state was going to be sending us money for bridge projects. It's a one-time bridge payment in the amount of $127,420.92. We did investigate, and I put that in your TA report. We can't use it to open the reserve fund that we were planning because the money has to be expended on bridges only no later than 2025.
Okay.
So I will, Mark and I talked about it as well. We obviously can't take care of the bridge that has the concern, the
Right.
Danforth Bridge right now, because that's like $500,000 to fix that right now. so.
Right.
But we're gonna take a look at this, and we've got time
Yep.
to take care of it, so.
So this just stays in our account as an earmarked, and
We probably have to encumber it at the end of the year. For every year we don't use it, because we did have to do that with the one-time payment they gave us for the highway projects.
Talk to Bob, but,
Yeah.
I mean, there's separate funds that are set up, like for construction funds, things like that,
Yeah,
that he can set up and take down, that this could be put into
right.
until it lapses.
yeah, it'll go into like Fund 3 or whatever they
Yeah.
call it, but
Yeah.
Right.
they
So
did.
it doesn't get mixed in, it is
Right.
accounted for.
Excuse me, they did make us encumber the highway projects, but it might have been because it was getting ready to expire,
Yeah,
so.
Okay.
yeah, usually you don't have to encumber it when it's in a fund like that, it's basically in a savings account.
All right, so we need
Make a motion to accept the unexpected revenue from the state of New Hampshire for bridge bridge projects, a one-time payment of $127,420.92.
I love the 92 cents.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, abstentions, 4-0. Great. Beach staffing.
Hey Deb, can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
So, I will just start it for Deb. We wanted to put this back on the agenda.
Yep.
There have been some concerns raised, but we also we wanted to confirm how to proceed, that the board is okay with how to proceed, and I'll let Deb explain that, because we would like to start at least getting the advertisements going in February and soliciting. Nobody would be starting, but Deb can also explain a little bit. I believe you were all involved in the decision, but
Yep.
Deb could also explain for public purposes why we extended the time frame for the beach.
Right.
And I'll let her do that.
Okay, Deb.
Okay.
In my budget to you this year, I, as similar to the year before, I made my recommendations based on the safety of our patrons at the beach, our taxpayers and residents, but also our staff members. And we had discussed the possibility last year of opening our beaches on Memorial Day, because the ordinance before that said June 15th. When we came on the beaches in June, those beaches had been used by anybody and everybody with no enforcement of those ordinances. And it took us a good part of June into July, and then going into July 4th weekend, trying to get our beaches under control. So we wanted to extend the ordinance to Memorial Day, to Labor Day, to have those ordinances in effect and enforced parking, dogs, and all the other ones actually. So I would like to keep that in effect. Where July was our busiest time, 2 years ago, we started putting 2 attendants on each beach on the weekends to help with enforcement and to give those attendants some backup, because typically our police department was also busy at that time, so our attendants didn't necessarily have, unless it was an emergency, backup from the police department.
Thank you, Deb. Also, not only during that extended period of time, but throughout the rest of the summer, what is the policy regarding poor weather coverage on the beaches?
If it is raining, we do not work. However, if it is an on-off day and our attendant wants to go that day, they can attend as long as there is no lightning or thunder.
Yeah.
They have to be off the beaches at that time.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So there are several days throughout the course of the schedule that because of weather, we don't end up staffing it that day or part of that day.
That's correct, because the beaches aren't attended on
Yep.
those days by patrons.
Yep. Are there ever situations where we send one home if it's not busy on a weekend?
Yes, and that's up to the attendants who are on, where they'll call me and say, hey, we made it to 2 o'clock, it's not busy at the beach now, can so-and-so leave? And I say, if you're comfortable with that, if the beach is covered, go ahead and go home.
Okay, thank you.
We should also there have also been times that we have kept 2 attendants maybe on Avery Beach, but then Cummings Beach might get busier, so we can move one of those attendants over to Cummings Beach.
Okay, so sounds like there's a lot of flexibility built in, and we do, take an opportunity when possible to create savings.
I would like to believe that is accurate, yes. Also, typically we hire college students, although we are starting to hire more retired people. And our beaches aren't always covered towards the end of August because our college students have gone back to school.
Right.
So there's a savings there as well. We might not be on the beaches till 5 o'clock, they might be covered in the morning till 2 or 3, which is the busier beach going time.
Yep, okay, very good. Yep, Carol?
So, at Budget Committee, there was a number of questions about this. Deb, at the Budget Committee, there were a number of questions about this, and I said I would bring them forward to this meeting. It looked, I don't have my budget in front of me, that the budget, hang on, I do have it in front of me, but it's not opened up yet. It was overspent this year, and the Budget Committee was wondering why that was.
I don't think we've ever made revenue. Our anticipated revenue this year was $8,000. We made close to 15 something in permits. About 85 to 90% of our budget is our payroll.
Yeah.
But I don't know why we were over this year.
What's the number, Christina? Off the top of your head?
Which one, sorry?
You got the line item there, Paul, by any chance?
Oh, the beige is 4583.
4521.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
No, 4521? Yeah, 4583 is Kelly Park.
This is a 1220 copy.
Yeah, right there.
So
This is as of 12/15, that was.
it was budgeted for 19,606, and you were at 24,572.
There could have been 2 factors in that. We did open the beaches like, it was our first year of opening them from Memorial Day versus June 15th. But we were also helping the town clerk tax collector's office selling permits from 8 to 12, June 1st to July 31st.
Yep, okay.
And if you recall, that all came out of the beach budget.
Yep.
It didn't come out of the town clerk tax collector's office. And we helped out, the select board, I believe, asked us to help out at the transfer station a couple of Saturdays too. That also came out of the beach budget, when it also helped the tax collector and the transfer station.
Yep, perfect, thank you.
The other thing too, I think, is that Deb, I believe Deb was being booked in 2 different places.
Right.
Sorry, it's telling me to drink water.
All of a sudden, I'm thirsty.
Jeez, my husband breathed.
Sorry about that. But Deb was being booked in 2 different budgets, and we fixed that and made sure that her beach hours are being booked in beach.
Yeah.
And that may not have been budgeted correctly before as well.
Budgeted, or does that number, that 24, all went to beach?
It includes Deb now.
Right.
Before, and I can clarify that with Bob, but it doesn't, I mean, 19,606 was what was budgeted.
Right.
So I think it's a combination of things, not just the
Yeah.
extension in hours, it's
Yeah.
helping in the lobby as well.
Okay.
So,
And we've increased it to that, about that number for this budget.
For this
yeah,
coming budget.
we fixed it, yep.
Okay.
Okay. Stop me if I get off
No.
track with this.
No.
Okay. And there was concern from the Budget Committee about the need to go from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And I said that the select board had made that decision, and that's where we were.
Yep,
And
okay.
so I'm just letting you know that that was a concern that they thought.
Appreciate it.
There were those that thought that wasn't necessary money-wise. And then there were those that said, should we raise revenue? Should we increase the fee? And there was, one of the people said, Deb, you can clarify this for me. Someone said they wanted to get, why couldn't they get a beach pass for all 4 of their vehicles? And that would be a revenue increase?
That would be, if there was a trust. Last year, we made a specific permit for trust so that if a family owned a trust and they had the correct paperwork, they could see the town clerk tax collector. But typically there is a rule within the town clerk tax collector that there are only 2 season permits per family, unless you wanted to change that.
I don't think that's a question for Deb, that's a select board, but one of our members complained that he owns 4 vehicles and why can't he get 4? That's not a budgeting question, that's a
Right.
policy
That's
question.
policy.
But that person saying, I was willing to buy 4 stickers if you would have let me. I can still only take.
Well,
one
lots
sticker.
of people are, but that doesn't help us at
You
the,
can't send,
at the beach.
yeah, 3, you can't send, let 3 other people use your other 3 cars. So, that's it. And the conversation, which is not budget related, but would going back to day passes make more money, therefore helping the budget out? That's throwing it out there. That's just,
So maybe even more is, so this is Deb, this is Paul Reed, and I'm the chair of the budget committee. So we got your proposal at the start of our last meeting, so we hadn't seen it beforehand and had a chance to read it, but we read it during the meeting. And
Paul, hold on one second. Would someone like to make a motion to allow Paul to speak outside of the public comments section?
or I can just show
I'll make
Carol.
that motion.
All right,
it's
motion,
okay. No, it's all right.
motion and
Second,
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great.
thank you.
Deb, in the section for Cummings Beach, where you describe how the procedure is gonna work, it says one tenant would be positioned at the entrance of Cummings Beach and selling permits and day passes to allow entrance to the beach parking area. So one of the things we said to Carol was, we thought that that the select board had made a decision that there were just annual resident permits and weekly visitor permits, but there are no day passes.
I
But the
think that-
procedure says that we're gonna sell day passes.
The day passes that she's talking about refers to people who would have the ability to have a pass but don't have a pass. Is that correct, Deb?
That was, but that was also written before we changed the ordinance.
Okay,
Okay.
We talked when Raymond and I came to the meeting, I don't know if it was October or November, and we decided that there would,
Yeah.
we didn't, but board decided there would be no
So-
day passes, that we would stay with the procedure of just taxpayers and residents
Right.
getting permits.
so Paul.
So that was my initial proposal that I had to have to the finance director, but then things changed at that October, November meeting of the select board.
Okay, thank you, Deb. Yeah, so on a year-to-year basis, we have decided whether we're going to do that or not. And I don't think we have made that decision for this coming.
No.
Excuse, may I?
Yep,
We did make that
Okay.
decision with Rena back, and nothing changed in
Right.
the ordinance.
right,
So, we were still continuing with just permits, guest passes, trust passes, and, we were going from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Yep,
So that's,
thank you for the refresh. I do remember us talking about that now. Yeah, so in my experience of coming back on the board after COVID started, we have made that a yearly decision on whether or not to do the day passes.
and can I also speak to day passes?
Sure.
One of the things we've noticed on the beaches by not selling day passes is we have a limited number of parking spaces. And the town clerk's tax collector and myself, our beach attendants, we're hearing from residents and taxpayers that they couldn't get to the beaches because they were full all the time when we were selling day passes because anybody would come. And often when Wellington would sell out early in the morning,
Yeah.
they would flock to our beaches and taxpayers and residents couldn't come because there was no parking for them to come. We also had more issues at the beach when we sold day passes. Those people didn't necessarily, not all of them, have a vested interest in keeping our beaches prestigious, keeping our beaches family-oriented. And we had other problems at the beaches when we did sell day passes. And that was also eliminated when we stopped selling day passes, because the patrons that come to the beach are residents and taxpayers that have a vested interest in the beach, and for the most part want to keep it friendly and family-oriented.
Thank you, Deb.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know the word revenue was mentioned. The cost of passes was never intended to be a revenue source or any kind of offsetting. Basically, it's to pay for the printing of the passes. It was never intended, even day passes weren't intended as a revenue stream.
So, I'm gonna ask your permission. So one of the things we asked at the last budget committee meeting was, would Christina arrange for Deb to come to the meeting so we could talk to her and ask her questions? And Christina said Deb's schedule doesn't allow her to come to Tuesday meetings. She's never gonna come to a budget committee meeting. Can I ask her a question or two?
Yeah.
So,
Before you, and the reason I said that, Deb is on a limited schedule.
Right,
so
right.
She's required to be here to take your minutes, but it didn't, if we could answer the questions, I didn't feel that she needed to go to the beach,
Right.
go to the budget.
I don't have any issue.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So Deb, just real quick, I wanna go to your materials section. I see that you got shirts and sweatshirts and tank tops. Is that just for the new hires, or is that everyone who gets hired gets a new set of clothes every year?
Well, they get typically 2 shirts, so they get a tank top. Most of the females want tank tops, but they are allowed a tank top and a shirt and a sweatshirt. And the reason sweatshirts came into play is because we would have people come to the beach when it was cold or windy, and our staff would have a sweatshirt on, which would cover their beach attire shirt, so they weren't visible. So I do have some staff that return, but most of our staff do not, so yes, they get those every year.
Okay, and you've also got folding chairs for everyone. So
Yes.
is this a new item, or did you have them last year also?
We had them last year also. We have some of those that we will give out again this year, but we will have to order a few new ones.
Okay,
But
so
they don't keep them, right? They stay with this town property.
that's,
They give them back at the end of their summer. I have one up in the storage unit upstairs right now.
If they're still good.
Camp chairs are,
Yeah.
you figure a whole
Together.
summer.
They're not they're not high priced chairs. I can
No,
tell.
no.
no, they're $45 a piece. She's asking for $315 for 7 of them. And then for construction barrels, I'm assuming that's, you talked about that you want to be able to line people up so they have to come by the attendant. You have to buy those? You
There
can't get
there are barrels. We have 6 barrels. Superintendent Buckland and I have talked about those barrels because they're quite old and they get run over by vehicles every summer. And we needed to replace 6 of them. And then the select board wanted new signs put on them, so we're working on that right now, but those 6 barrels need to be replaced. Highway department has repaired them as much as they can repair them.
Okay, thank you. I think those are my questions.
Great, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you for
No,
allowing
you're
me
good.
to talk.
I just formality. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, very good. Fireworks.
It's a fun subject.
So we talked a little bit about it when we were talking about the warrant articles.
Yeah.
And so I'm reviewing the contract that we have already signed. It's a 3-year contract. It doesn't, I'm concerned that I don't think we can get out of this contract. So, because he is still going to be what I did was ask Les to follow up with him.
Yeah,
Les followed up with him, he can do a show on a barge, he just can't do
Class A.
Class B.
yeah, B, right.
Well, so he can do a longer show, Class C, and that's what he wants to do, because, so that's why I'm bringing it back to you at this point.
Right, and it would mean a reduction on what we had planned for the warrant article.
Right, it would be a reduction on the warrant article, there's a couple of good reasons to stay with this. One, it's the last year of the contract. It gives us time to go out and look at other vendors over this year.
Yeah.
Because the vendors I've reached out to already and talked to, we're not gonna get a date around the 4th. I think I shared the closest
Yeah.
one was
Yeah,
July 7th, if I remember correctly. The contract, it does say we have to have mutual agreement to get out of it. And we're supposed to be providing a deposit in January, which we stall them usually until after town meeting.
yeah,
Just to make sure. And then, it does say the contract is for a barge. He's still willing to do a barge and he's still willing to do the date that is provided. So the question would be, do you want to continue with the smaller caliber show? He would do a longer show, and he's actually offered to cut the costs. I don't have the exact number yet, but he's offered to cut the costs, but it would be you wouldn't see this from everywhere.
right,
We have to definitely advertise, let people know ahead of time.
yeah.
It's not gonna be as up in the sky. But,
People complain about this.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Well, the typical viewing area is around the lake and boats, anyhow.
And he did point out too that the radius around the boats would be much
Smaller.
around the boat for the shooting would be smaller
Right.
than it is with the Class B.
So he can't do Class B from a barge?
Because you have to.
Has to be remote, he can't do a remote?
You have to be remote, so you just have to be on the
Right.
boat shooting it off.
Right.
But he's actually lighting them off on the barge.
What would our lawyers say, oh, we can't get anybody time-wise, but what would our lawyers say about contractually about that? It's not our fault that the state has changed the requirements.
It's not ours or his, but we
No.
can certainly reach out to the attorney and ask him, if that's something you want to try
Strong enough.
it out of, we can reach out to the attorney and ask.
He can't, the problem is he can't do remote, is that?
He can't do remote.
No,
For Class B, or you don't need.
Yeah, well, it's,
You don't need remote for Class C?
No.
no,
Get it.
So he can do a Class C barge show, a longer barge show than what he would offer you with a B and C. And he can do, he can cut the money. I don't
Because it's
have the
gonna cost
exact
him
number.
less to do that.
Yeah.
right. And if,
And then he can do the dates that we've already booked, which would have been July 1st,
right,
which is Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
oh, yeah,
Yeah, when we got the choice,
right,
when we did this, he gave us a choice, since we were the only ones during COVID
right.
that hired anyone. He sort of gave us an appreciation.
Yeah.
And we decided to do the Saturdays, because
Yeah, that's the best.
that's the best
Right.
one for,
Yeah.
And we signed a 3-year contract to lock him in
Right,
for those dates and that rate. So,
Okay.
and we got a barge out of it and a boat trailer, but.
yeah, he threw a bunch of nice stuff on.
I'm inclined to finish out the contract and see
Yeah.
where we're at. It's,
And maybe.
people
put
are
it
used
out
to the
bid.
price. It's gonna be smaller in height, but like you said, most of the viewing is right around the lake. It's not like.
It's on the beaches and in boats. I mean,
Right.
It's not like you're,
Right.
in town and watching them. You can't see them from town anyhow.
Maybe we could have him reposition it maybe, closer, a little farther south.
He pretty much puts it right in the center.
So the Cummings
Or-
can
Yeah.
see, he puts
Yeah.
it so anybody at Cummings
Yeah.
can see and
Yeah.
you cross.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the people that are gonna be down at Manor Estates that
Yeah.
might not be able to see because of the island.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I will get a better price, a number, and get that to you before the warrant article.
Okay.
But I think as long as we let people know ahead of time.
Yeah.
it's
This is
going to
where we're
be-
at. and
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
and then we can start soliciting over this year. I mean, I had to do it pretty quickly to get it to you for the warrant article, so we
Right.
called all of these people and emailed them. And they're all like, well, you're not getting the 4th.
Right.
Right, so if we start doing it
Fifth
now
or the sixth.
for next year, so.
Yeah, he actually offered us the 4th of July
Yeah,
on all, but a lot of times it's the last day of the holiday and people
right,
already gone home.
right.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We have an issue with street numbering ordinance, or,
No, I'm proposing to update it.
okay, good.
What's in front of, what was sent to you and in front of you is, it's been the new street numbering ordinance. This is one of those jobs that, is transferring.
Okay, yeah,
And I'm trying to close the loop, get the ordinance updated, get the policy in place, get the mess cleaned up with
then
between
get it
Ingrid
off
and
the
I,
plate.
and then it moves.
yeah,
So the ordinance has been reviewed by the fire department. It has also been reviewed by the town's attorney. And then, for your information, I also included the process, the address assignment process, which would be what will take place. It will almost completely take assessing land use out of it. It will take me out of it. Everything would be updated when, liaisons would be updated, it would transfer to the fire department. There's a couple things that the land use and assessing would have to do here, but everything else would be handled by the fire department.
okay.
And even enforcement, sorry, no typos.
was anything changed?
So I sent, I sent the original, it was really hard to send you the mock-up because 3 different people marked on it.
Yeah,
We did change. So the attorney, we changed the very top, it tells you what this is pursuant to, those weren't even mentioned, on the other one. We changed to primary, building instead of central. It said central building and central purpose on the lot if you look under definitions, so we changed that. We cleaned up the document. We added, select board or designee under parties affected. Under section 4, naming system, we took out, actually, if you look under number 6, the naming of driveways.
Yeah, that was one I was gonna ask about then too.
So, we did decide to leave it in there. We received feedback from the attorney that, not sure this can be enforced as a street naming authority, but it could be part of the sign provisions of the zoning ordinance. I'm going to the planning board next. The language in the zoning ordinance might be added into the list of prohibited signs in section 4.11G, perhaps as follows: signs that may be mistaken as official street signs, including but not limited signs on private driveways. We chose not to take it out of here because it's really part of the street numbering, but if we could get the planning board to also put it into the sign section next year, then that would help, so.
I just know a lot of people have those now, so they'd be grandfathered, because,
Yes.
Mopar Way for the guy that likes his Dodges and
Yeah.
things like
Yeah,
that.
they would be grandfathered for what's existing.
yeah.
So.
Okay,
Wasn't some of the response by people on that is because fire departments require them to name their driveways?
No, they were only
Or
required to
their
name their
private
driveway
roads.
if there's 2 or more using the same
Okay.
driveway. If it's a single property using a driveway, you're not required.
Right, so I think some
Private
people
road.
made them a street sign. They said, you're gonna make me name my street, I'm gonna put a street sign on it.
Well, private roads you would. This
Yeah,
is driveways.
and some people just as part of their hobby,
Right.
like to do that. And I can see where it's confusing, you're going down and it's like, okay,
Yep.
is this a road or is it driveway?
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it looks like a road.
Right.
Yeah, if you have a long dirt driveway, so I can understand where it's confusing, but I guess, are we gonna have an issue with enforcement if people already have those and now we're saying they can't?
So
That's the problem.
That's
I
always.
think what it also says that naming of driveways with the use of street signs or signs that appear to be street signs shall be prohibited. I think if you're naming, but you're not using an actual green and white shiny street
Yeah.
sign, that's a little bit different. This is trying to make it not look like it's an official street that,
Yeah, yeah.
for E911 purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You could spend forever trying to enforce all of that.
Right,
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
right,
Our policy is not to use it, but yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And the fire department will do the enforcement,
Yeah.
but, that would be something whether the planning board wants to put that in the zoning or not.
Right,
so-
someone, who's gonna enforce or signs that appear to be street signs, because
Right.
Right, you're gonna go out and follow every one of them. This is more to say, please don't do it.
Okay.
It can be very confusing for people, but we can take that line out if you prefer. We're okay with that.
Yeah, I just don't wanna get into a mess of
Yeah.
So we'll
enforcement issues, that's what I was just
Yeah.
concerned about with that. The rest of it,
And part of me says, I can put whatever
I know.
I damn well want.
whatever sign
Well,
I
you
want.
could, well, and that's the thing, you could. You
Yeah.
can put whatever you want up at the end of your driveway
Right.
for the most part.
As long as it's on your property and
Right.
not in the
And
right.
not in the right of way, so we'll remove number 6. Then, any other major things?
And it's, okay, yeah, so it is 10-foot interval.
Where were you, sorry?
On the numbering system,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, he's down at 5D.
we didn't really change that.
Yeah.
That was pretty much what it was before. The only thing we changed was like under letter H. It just says that it's the select board or designee.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
fire
Yeah,
chief
you
was
said-
added.
All right.
Under section 7, new buildings and subdivisions. A lot of this was just cleaning it up too, because this hadn't been touched for
Right.
14 years, 15 years. So under section 7, we did change it to say owners of new or expanded primary buildings shall procure their number assignment through the land use permit process.
Okay.
We did, and then in section B, we took out, before it said that they had to have numbers assigned by the planning board. I'm like, no, the planning board's not gonna do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's gonna be approved street name for all existing streets and any new street name approved by the fire chief in consultation with the Bristol, we have that master list.
Yeah.
So we changed that so that the master list, whenever it's updated, this doesn't have to be changed, that master list can be updated whenever you take on new roads and things.
Is a consultation the right word to use there?
Is it?
You can consult with a master list?
Maybe.
Be a one-way conversation.
And show the approved street name for the existing.
In
Approved by
accordance
the
with,
fire
in accordance
chief
with?
In reviewing the Bristol master road list. Are you better with that?
Yep.
Hey, that made it through an attorney.
No comment.
Nothing else changed, except for letter D was added under penalty. The reason that was added, is because the compliance and penalty, it is under the fire department, but it would be turned over to the police department if it reaches a certain level for them to enforce. We've only had, in the years I've been doing it, we have one property, it took 3 years to get them to fix their building. They fixed it though, this year. So, but for the most part, everybody's fixing things pretty quickly, so. And then section 9, administration,
Designate the fire chief, yep.
yeah, we changed that there.
Okay.
Its wording was cleaned up, select board was changed, fire chief was changed, added in there, and it was just cleaned up completely.
Okay.
So, will you make those 2 changes and put it on the consent agenda for the next meeting?
Great.
Do you have any questions about process or anything, on the other document?
No, I was looking at that, yeah. I was gonna ask you a question, and then it was answered at the bottom of the form, about flag removed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So what was happening now is once the address was assigned and I would have to go back to, and the building was started, construction was
Yeah.
moving, I'd have to go back to the fire department and said, okay, move the flags, then they'd have to send it back to me to close the loop, and that
Yeah.
wasn't happening. So we're giving it all to them to control that,
Good.
so,
all right.
okay, we'll prepare that for your consent agenda.
Town administrator report. Can you touch on the SAU billing?
No. So that, we still don't have a final answer on that. We did get an email the week of Christmas that the SAU is not sure why there's a discrepancy between the amount that is collected in taxes for the school and the amount that we're being billed for. It's about $53,000 difference for the town of Bristol.
In our favor, or?
No,
Okay.
no. So it's not, originally, the way the email was written, it implied that it was $53,000 a payment. And I'm like, well, that's 7 payments. No way can it be that far off. But it's $53,000 total and 7 payments. So, New Hampton reached out to us. New Hampton
So it's not a Bristol issue, it's
No,
a school district
it's a
issue.
school district. I don't know how many towns are affected. I can tell you, New Hampton and Bristol are affected.
Yeah,
New Hampton's is $23,000 and Bristol's is higher. So New Hampton reached out to the school, then alerted us. We reached out to the school, didn't hear anything. I called and left some message for Pierre, and then we got an email within a few days from their finance officer at the school that they're looking into it. Over the holidays, though, the Department of Revenue rep that they need to speak to is out. So we don't have a final answer, but they are working to find out what the discrepancy is.
okay.
We did make our payment, but if we find out that it's truly an error and needs to be adjusted, then we'll have it adjusted off of the next payments.
Yeah,
Transfer station, that's cut and dry. We'll pursue that, but we just
Yep.
couldn't get it done. Bridge you already talked about, town fireworks we talked about. The only thing, on the PEMI Path subcommittee is that, in preparing the draft for the energy committee, I realized there wasn't a line about posting the meetings and minutes. So I'm asking to add that to the PEMI Path subcommittee, so that that's also included in their guidelines. It's the same exact wording that I read for the energy committee. If you agree to sign it, then I will send a copy to Bill, after this meeting.
okay.
It just says I'll do it on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
I highlighted this one, you can't sign this
Oh,
one.
okay.
So, it just says the PPSC is required to provide notice of meetings and minutes and must follow statutory requirements, just like it did in the energy
Yep,
committee.
yep.
So, okay, so we'll prepare that for the,
Yeah, you have consensus to do that on the consent agenda. Yeah. And town report.
I was gonna do part of that in non-public,
Okay.
because
Yep,
we're
yep.
we actually
Talk about dedication and
yeah, and we may need to do that now. I don't think we can wait till the 19th.
okay.
But we can talk about part of it.
Yeah.
So we need to discuss the dedication, but who's writing the executive summary? If you want me to draft something, I need some ideas, because obviously I only was doing this internally for 3 months.
Right.
But or if someone would love to write it.
I will stop, no, you're not here.
Not tomorrow, no.
Will you be here Monday morning?
Yes, what time? I have an 11 o'clock.
Actually, how about Tuesday?
Department head meetings at 10,
Will you be here at 9? Okay.
so Tuesday at 9?
Yep.
Okay. I did ask Wendy also about the cover. There were pictures last year. She said the pictures didn't do as well with the print shop, so she was just going to use the seal. I just wanted to double check with you if that's really what you want to do.
Yeah.
And do you care about the binding? She said that we can do
It's least
the
expensive.
spiral binding versus the,
I think just, the spiral's more expensive, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the spiral's more expensive, but she can do the other binding.
I think just the regular
Just for your,
The glue,
glued pressed.
yeah, that's the only.
yeah.
So it would just be the seal
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
And then, well, if you have a dedication, we do need to talk about, but I don't think we should say in public because
No.
it ruins the
Yep.
surprise.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but how do we do that? We did advertise in non-public for 5 o'clock, but can you go back in?
Yeah, you can go
Non-public?
Yeah, you can go back in.
Okay, just checking. So we'll have to do that at the end.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I did have, 2 more things.
Yep.
My contacts info is still split between the two. I have access to both emails. Nesset, the IT company, will be here Monday. They'll be working on these laptops. And then I'm hoping that we can get all of the stuff moved correctly into the desktop and fix all the laptops. So I have a laptop with the TA behind me, and then I have my assessing stuff in front of me. So I'm using the assessing email currently, so that you're aware.
Okay.
We have access to the voicemail. I've got that all updated and changed already, but we just have to work on getting the rest of the stuff corrected.
All right.
Town car is down.
DOA,
Yeah.
does it need to be shot?
Maybe. So we couldn't get it to run last week. I realized that we probably should have started it during the cold snap a little bit more than we did. And we had the highway department come jump it, and the battery wouldn't hold to charge, so we said, go ahead and get a battery. Well, the alarm stuck on and won't shut off. So they cut the wire to the alarm, and great, the alarm stopped making noise, but the lights won't stop going flashing. So police department was gonna take a quick look at it, but it's gotta be fixed no matter what. We can't get it until January 18th. And we were just gonna go over here. It just would be easier, so, it will sit there for a little bit. We'll start it occasionally to make sure the new battery doesn't, but,
What is it currently being used for?
well, we have our new land use officer, so it will start to be used by that person more, so it won't sit like it has been.
Yeah, okay.
Police department also uses it.
Yeah, on
They did use
occasion,
it
yeah.
last month.
Yeah.
And I had asked them to bring it back because the land use officer was coming, but in my haste, we forgot to,
No,
we should start it. So, I don't know if it would have mattered if we
It wouldn't
started
matter
it,
if the battery
whatever's
died.
going on with it. So, it'll sit there for a little bit.
Okay.
I think that's it. If I think of anything, I'll jump in, but.
all right, selectmen items,
Done.
done? Anita, would you have something
I
else?
do. So sorry.
Can I say something?
Jefferson Road.
Yes.
A letter has not gone out, but I pulled Mark's file and I pulled the land use file.
Yep.
And I've talked to Mark about how to proceed, but I wanted to talk to you as well, because at this point, there's been a number of letters, there's been a survey,
Yep,
and nothing's changed. It's actually gotten worse.
it's gotten worse. I want to proceed with that back to where it should be.
So the letter that I can send, and this is my recommendation and Mark's recommendation, I can say you have to correct it, but it's not gonna get done now. Most likely by the time we're gonna get the letter out, most likely it's not gonna be able to be cut back until
Wow.
spring.
Mark could do that tomorrow with the loader.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was, my point is, I think we just notify them that we're returning the road, we're gonna be
We
getting
will be
to ditch it,
returning the
period.
road by a certain date, and that,
And whether we can do it if the ground's frozen or not, but this is
Right.
the notification that this is going to happen.
right, no later than,
No.
I would say like no later than April 15, but may be done before that.
So that's how I wanted to approach it, but I wanted
Yep.
to make sure that everybody was on board with that.
Yes.
So no later than April 15th. And we're gonna advise, we're including ditching.
Weather allowing may be done sooner.
Sooner, yeah.
It's a safety hazard.
Mark did want to point out that I know that there was a concern that had come up about, the utility vehicles that have been using that access up there they're doing the upgrade. He said that they've been excellent. When the last storm, not the rainstorm, but the one before that happened, he did call, he's a contact, he called up, let him know that there was some work that needed to be done to the road. They stopped transporting vehicles, fixed the road, and then went back to work after.
Yeah.
So they are taking care of their issues. They are able to get up through there currently, but he agrees that we need to cut that back. So.
Yeah. I've personally dealt with that outfit. No, I'm talking about with the power line.
Oh, yeah.
And for clients, and they have been
They're really good.
utmost professional.
They were extremely professional coming into the planning board
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
zoning board and,
Yeah, and went above and beyond, even as far as putting gates up and, all, they, whatever you want to say about, about Eversource, their people on the ground have been excellent.
And the fact that road they put up from 104 didn't wash out 2
Yeah.
days later.
Yeah,
Well, they have the
Pretty
erosion, the
darn
erosion
well done.
mitigation on
that's
it.
extreme erosion.
It is,
mitigation.
yeah, really.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they did put those entrance mats down to help prevent any problems too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we definitely want to proceed with that.
So the direction to mark at this time would also be, if you can do it sooner,
Yes.
you would prefer it done sooner.
Yep.
But if not, no later than April 15th.
Right.
Well, depending on what season.
Mud allowing, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You can always take the grader.
Yeah, if they can start it right now.
Tomorrow Alexander's doing.
Yep.
Conservation Commission yesterday, I'm just giving you an update. Hilda came in and said she would be really interested in trying to preserve the field piece of her property along Hall Road. Whether that means we asked the town to buy it, or the taxpayers, or we talked about a lot of options. I'm just letting you know she's putting it out there. It's not a timeline. She's not saying, I really want to be done with this by June.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
timeline. I think it's a really valuable thing to look at, where it's part of the aquifer going down to the Danforth well.
Yeah.
And we have also sort of been talking about Conservation Commission that brought forward the discussion about many towns have plans to purchase green space, this is a bad time to be talking about that financially, but maybe we want to talk about that on a longer term basis somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
We've talked about the property next to the town of Wells. I think we mentioned this too. The little cape on the corner there, they own the trust of that big piece that's right next to adjacent to the town of Wells, and then
Planky, up ahead of Planky Spring.
right, and then somehow, in fact, I forget to tell you, I called him, but I had to leave a message. So whether we look at that for the future, saying to the taxpayers, we want to have a let's purchase green space program, there'll be a lot of pushback on that.
Many towns have enacted the either all or a portion of the land use change tax.
Right.
That would go into a conservation fund.
Right.
That's how a lot of towns fund
We talked about
that.
this. We're at 50%. If any of
Right.
it ever happens, we
Did
get.
that pass? Did we-
Well, no. Oh, yes, it did
Yeah,
pass.
yeah.
We did confirm it's a 50% match.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing, and that's what we're paying to do that current use project now.
Yeah,
It's gonna clean everything up and make it, anything that we've made mistakes on and missed will
Yeah.
be caught. Whether we can collect it or not will have to be determined depending on the time frame. And then going forward, we'll be set up with files that are accurate
Yeah.
from this point forward.
yeah,
They'll be finished by, I think, June is when the agreement we signed is for. And they'll return all of those files, and we'll have a checklist and a process and everything.
okay.
So we kind of thought the Conservation Commission, based on an informal approval here, that we try to prioritize a few pieces that we think should be protected for resource reasons rather than just for open space reasons, protecting the spring or protecting the town well. And then, in my mind, then we move on to open space and green space, reasons for protecting land after that. So we'll start down that road. If
There may be other options than the town doing that.
Yeah,
You know, if you can and that's a good reason to prioritize based on resources
Right.
that, you know, there might be monies available through, whether it's Trust for Public Lands or
We
Society of
talked, yeah.
Protection of New Hampshire Forests or
Nature Conservancy, we
Forestry
talked about.
Foundation, a Nature Conservancy, or any,
those would be the preferable ways to go
right,
for the taxpayer,
Right.
obviously.
yeah,
So we kind of thought we'd prioritize, and then when the town hires a grant writer, he can go work on it.
right. Okay, great.
Just let you know, that's all.
I don't have any,
No, that isn't all you had. Just put it away. You wanted me to remind you to talk about meetings.
Talking to
Let's get
me?
meeting schedule. Do you still need to talk about meeting schedule?
I don't think so right now.
And enforcement, do we need to talk about enforcement contractors?
Yeah. We talked about this last meeting,
yeah,
and because it came up again last night. What
at
do
the
we-
Conservation Commission.
Yes, what do we do about this? And I said, we talked about it at the select board and said that we probably weren't gonna pursue enforcement of this. Is that, and secondarily, I said that we talked about maybe, could we have a certification process, some kind of a certification process for local contractors, and could we have a training? And I said, we talked about the fact that would we get people here or not? So there's still some strong concern in Conservation Commission about how do we stop this from happening over and over again. The contractors just going out and doing work they know they shouldn't
No,
do,
we're-
Yeah.
regardless of which one it is.
Right.
So there's some concern there at the Conservation Commission.
At what? Yeah, I get it.
It will save land use work
yeah.
if you
I'm
don't.
all for anything that would be proactive. I don't know how we can, other than after the fact,
Right.
as an enforcement action. At least one is in the hands of the state, correct?
At least one, yeah.
Yeah.
At least one.
The
yeah.
second one, the update on the second one on Hall Road is that we think it slipped through the DES cracks because they they saw the original email and we'll check into it now.
Yeah.
They didn't say why they haven't
Oh,
checked
yeah,
into it yet,
okay,
so.
yeah, I got you.
So,
I don't know what we as a town could do. Well, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on the thing?
I thought I said.
Yeah, I don't, the problem is that there's no penalty for the contract.
Right.
It goes on to the landowner.
Right.
So
Right.
it's win-win for the contractor. He goes and
Unless
does,
the landowner then turns.
he goes and does it and gets paid, and then the landowner has to soak up the rest of it. So the only way to really practically prevent it is to put some kind of penalty, severe enough penalty on the contractor. I don't know legally that the town can do that.
I did
And then
email,
how do you enforce?
I thought I emailed
And
the
how much
town's
do you spend
attorney,
on
but I'll follow
enforcement?
up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, council might have some light that they can shed.
I mean, the only way
Or we may have to throw it down to Concord to the legislature to do something. Sorry, had to do that.
So at least
the
once.
only way you.
Because that's probably where,
Yeah.
that's probably where it's gonna have to be resolved.
I mean, some of it you can enforce as far as the enforcement mechanism. We don't have that enforcement mechanism for everything. We have a limited capability
Right.
on the enforcement mechanism.
Right.
But
Right.
I don't know if we have the authority to have a certification.
Required to do work in the town of Bristol.
Right.
I don't think we
Some
have
kind of
the-
training, some kind of, or that you have to come in and be handed something that you have to receive in some way.
I don't know what
And-
authority we could
I don't know.
bring to bear on that.
I don't know
Yeah.
if we do or not.
one thing we also.
Because I know that, excuse me, at the state level, if you want to be a
Sure,
remediation contractor, there's a
Yep.
list of 100 of them you can pick from.
Right.
Because they have been vetted by the state in some way
Right.
to be able to do that work.
Right, and if it were a town project, you could have that control.
Oh, good point.
But if it's private
Yeah.
property, you can't
The town can
You
say.
You can't limit who they can contract with.
I don't, can we? I'm asking, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can. Yeah.
One of the things we talked about on the land use side was business licenses, no fees for them, just to require any new businesses to come in. And part of why we talked about that was that we could be proactive about if a business is being in a certain part of town where it's not allowed. We're not going back to them after they've opened and put their business in and saying, sorry, you now have to get a variance or.
Right, but that doesn't apply to other people who are from
Well-
other towns coming in and doing work.
It doesn't apply to other towns, correct? That's the only thing.
Right.
It would apply to anybody whose operation was part of the new
Right.
Bristol area, but.
I mean, we can ask what recourses we have. I don't like the idea of a town trying to say, you know, who you can hire, who you
Yeah,
can't.
no,
You can't hire.
I agree.
Or you can only work here if you,
Or if, yeah, right.
you can't work in our town otherwise, yeah.
Right.
Well, and it gets into who makes the, you can do something bad once, but how, all of a sudden you're on this list now.
The only time it stops is, you know, a landowner goes after for the,
Civil, they have to go after civil.
in the civil court.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do we protect the taxpayers of the town from this?
I don't know.
Should we, could we, should we, but it seems like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot.
Well, because then it rolls to Conservation Commission, and then it's sort of, our task, the few tasks we have left on the Conservation Commission is to protect resources. Now,
Right.
we have no way to do that, it's too late. Once these things are done, unless DES comes in and says you have to,
Which you saw the harsh
Yeah.
one for Penny Shores,
Yeah.
that was a 3-page
Right.
response.
Right.
anyway, I was just throwing it at you, we should talk about it some more, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and I will reach out and find out, some more information for you to digest.
Is there a there's not a mechanism that we could advertise.
Well, I was thinking,
These.
Angie's list pops up into my head, but
Right.
but it would be like a grading,
Yeah.
like you get an F.
No, I wouldn't want to get into that aspect.
No.
I'm just saying, you know, there are public documents out there that point to these issues, like the Pemmy Shores.
Maybe it's something that we could put when there are violations, that we send a copy of the zoning ordinance to the contractor every time.
Yeah,
Say,
that's
you
at
need
least something.
Something we could do, it's an expense, but it might be worth trying. There's so many mechanisms for people to learn.
Yeah.
We have all of them, we're not quite done with some of the setups, but we've done a pretty good job on the website.
Yeah.
in each of the departments trying to guide people.
Yeah.
We've tried 4 different checklists. We tried a business checklist that broke it down by districts. We've said if you're here and you're within so many feet of a wetland or within this is where you need to go, come see us.
Right.
Never used that checklist once. A grant was provided where, from NLRA, where they paid resilience planning to create a checklist for us. The checklist is great, color coded, nice boxes on it, never used once.
Yeah.
Nobody ever brought it into for a project. And so we can give them all those mechanisms, and we can encourage them to look at them, but the piece that's gonna really draw your attention is a penalty.
Right.
Some type of penalty to someone saying, you've done this 3 times, there's no more, I didn't know at that point. Maybe the first time you didn't know, but sorry, you should have known the second or the third.
Yeah.
But
I mean, for us, it's much more cost effective to train people and not have to go through enforcement.
Right,
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm not saying, in some way, train,
right.
I don't know what the solution is. I'm learning my way around the legislature. Let me just do some asking around and see if anybody has a comment. And maybe I'll give DES a call and see if they have a thought too.
Yeah, and we can enact that if someone who violates something, we'll send them a letter just saying, hey, here's a copy of the zoning ordinance, please, take it into consideration when you're doing a future project.
I think that's a good idea.
We can do that as well, we can start that and see if it helps.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for reminding me.
Thanks, Carol.
Sorry. I warned you guys.
You did. It's fair. I don't have any items. Any public comment? Sir, I'm gonna ask you first.
Okay, I was just curious if you're aware that there's a safety problem on Beach Street.
Can you tell us who you are
I'm Robert Fellows,
and you live on Beach
at
Street?
85 Beach Street.
Yep. You got that? No? Yep.
And there's a safety problem at the corner of Second and Beach.
Second and Beach. Okay.
They, in the past, I think they did it 2 years ago, but I'm not 100% sure. But they revamped their backyard. Now all of the water runs completely across the sidewalk and completely across Beach Street.
Okay.
I'm
The
just
town's been doing the best they can to take care of it.
Yep.
They've been salting the hell out of it and sanding the hell out of it, but
But it freezes.
when there's ice there, you can't walk down Beach Street. There's elderly on Beach Street that walk down there. Now they have to cross the street to get on the other side, to come down in front of the brick building, to get back onto the sidewalk, to come downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did go out, actually, Mark and I did go out when they were talking about doing this new trench. And they were ordered at the time to make sure that nothing goes on, no ice goes on the sidewalk.
Well, take a look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
I mean, it's receded now because it's warm enough.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's only water now.
Right.
When that temperature changes, it may look like nothing.
No,
When you get on it, you'll find out real fast that there's something.
First row.
your concern is valid for sure,
First
and want to make
It's
sure
this
we
one.
take those safety concerns seriously.
I don't know, is it?
We've got your name. I will.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I will.
I have your phone number too, I've talked to
I'm
you.
sure you do.
We will follow up on that, sir, and get back to you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Sorry you had to wait through this whole meeting to say
That's all
that.
right. Normally, I'm not able to get to these meetings anyway. But
Yeah.
I retired last year, so.
Congratulations. Looking forward to seeing more of you.
Probably will.
Good.
Good.
I may not get to follow up with it until Monday, but I
Yep.
will make sure that I.
But
get
I
to
would-
them.
Yep, and I'll make sure I run by there, the next time we have, if we ever get any more cold weather.
Really?
The water's running pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look at it in the
Oh, I
morning.
bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to see one of the elderly guys up the street. Some of them are a lot older than me, and I'm old enough, but
So the drainage swale was installed to keep the water from destroying the foundation of the building.
Okay,
But I can almost tell you I know exactly where it's coming across, because that's where we told them it couldn't come across. So.
and at this point, I don't know what they'll do to stop
okay, we'll take a look at it, sir. Thank you, and I'll be out in the morning to take a look at
it.
it.
No problem.
I'm just making a note.
It's the apartment building, Sean.
On the other side of Second,
Yeah.
across from the former frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right across, it's right behind the yellow building there on
Okay.
Second Street.
Okay.
Yeah, the one right on the corner, it's actually the
It
address
never
for the
used to
apartment
come out
building
there.
is Beach Street.
On the upper side of Second Street.
The opposite,
Yeah.
so it's this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
This is Second Street.
Yeah.
Yep, directly across from George Frame's old.
Yep,
old
Thomas
house.
Crosser still on that property, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, oops, got it.
no, Frame was on Third Street.
What's that?
This
Frame
is-
was on Third Street.
Right, okay,
This is Thomas Crosser's
Second
property.
Street, there's the first street, the one up on the left.
okay, on the uphill side of it,
Yes.
okay, gotcha. Yeah,
There was a fencing thing, concern on that, across the street from this property before.
Alright.
You might have dealt with.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Hi. Yeah, so, I've got two topics that I wanted to discuss.
Okay.
Both of which are continuations from last meeting. One is that, I hope, but I don't know, if we have a meeting with USAE next Thursday.
Okay,
Tia hasn't responded yet. I got your email this week. I've emailed Tia to confirm a time, if she's still, you said, so I got your email on Tuesday, was it?
Correct.
So I emailed Tia to find out if she's available still during the day and what time. I haven't gotten a response yet.
Okay, and then following with that, if we do have that meeting, I would like to know if I could have access and look at the Penny Trail file on the town's computer server, so that I could make sure that that we are familiar with all the information
sure.
that the town has before we meet with her.
I think you might be,
It's gonna, I have no access to all of the TA files right
Yeah.
now. So that's gonna take a little bit of time, Bill. That's why I hadn't gotten back to you yet, because I'm trying to I'm using two different accounts right
I
now.
understand.
So I do not know where all those files are right now.
right, that's what I was just gonna say, I think that might be, that might be wishful thinking at this point.
I think they can
Well,
be
they're coming-
found, I just think it's good, they're coming to
They're
do the
coming Monday, you
laptops here, and they're gonna work on it remotely
Yeah.
Monday, but I can't there's a problem with the town administrator login that was happening beforehand, and I can't guarantee they'll fix it Monday.
I know.
So you, excuse me, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You don't have access to all your files?
I haven't.
That's outrageous.
I keep all my files in a folder that says Christina's files for the move.
No, not your files.
No, but I mean.
But all
To the town administrator
No, I
files?
I don't have all access to the town administrator's files. Luckily, everything that I've needed, I've been able to find between Deb and Wendy, but we're working on fixing that.
Yeah.
It just, I can't guarantee it'll be before next Thursday.
And Nick, I know you hate to call former employees, but he has no solution for that? Or he has no?
Well, it's under the it'll be under the town administrator login, it's just, that's not working appropriately right now, so. It'll be fixed, I just can't guarantee by Thursday.
Looking
What
for
the hell?
old, I know that the draft
I have a file.
exists, probably in my
Oh,
email somewhere. If I
Oh,
find it, Bill, I'll send it to you of
What was it for?
for the path, for basically the engineering.
I have that from Mike Vignali. I have that information if that's what you're looking for. But
Well, I don't have it, so.
so
I just want to make sure that we don't get blindsided by something that we believe, that she believes we have. and we've not seen it.
I've sent you the MOU as well.
Yes, you have.
Okay.
And that's fine.
If the board's okay, I can set up a time with Bill
Yeah.
on Monday, if you're available Monday.
I'll make sure I'm available.
We can meet Monday and I can show you my file. I can't guarantee we'll have everything in it that you may be needing, but at least we can look at that first.
And do you have the brownfield file?
I have a link to it.
Because I can put that on the certificate, because I have it. It's 730 pages.
I have a link to it from Mike Vignali. But I don't think I downloaded it, but I'll double check. So
And
I
I'll
created
bring
a
it-
file. for the
I'll
Penny
bring
Path,
it with
but-
me on a stick, and I'll give you the stick, and you can determine whether you want to put it on.
Didn't you do that already?
Huh?
Didn't you do that already?
No, I didn't do that.
Somebody did.
Yeah.
I may have given it to you in the past, I don't know whether you put it on or not.
Monday afternoon at 1?
That's fine,
Okay.
thank you.
Sorry, I didn't keep
that's
you up, held
Yep.
you up for that, sorry.
It's all right. The other topic is the DOT.
Yep.
Christina sent me the letter, and basically what they did was they listed all the different sections so that they can strike them out when they want to, according to the budget.
Yep.
I would like to contact our state reps and also Joe Kenny and have him come in and talk with us, because I do not want to see these projects cut back because of limited funding. As I said at last meeting, I've attended all the GASSET meetings.
Right.
I've represented Bristol and been pushing that they maintain the budgets for these projects. And just because we've had a cost increase in material doesn't mean that they should not have adjusted their budgets as well. And I'm not prepared to see them cut back on these projects because they haven't done their job. And if Joe Kenny, who is on the executive council,
Yep.
and he has to approve these budgets, so I would like him to come into town. I'd like him to hear our town version of why these projects should be done and should be fully financed. And the fact that they say that there's more federal money available, but they haven't chosen to give it to our projects, which we've been bird dogging for the last 6-7 years, is no excuse. So I would like to have permission to go to ask Joe Kenny, and I'll also send messages to our other state reps and senators that we are trying to get this done.
I don't think the board has any issue with that. Bill, we just cannot monopolize Christina's time with it.
I'm prepared to do this. I
Yeah.
just want your permission to do it.
Yep, if you can, do you have any issue with that if it's not? Okay.
But,
Go ahead.
so, I just wanna make sure that you're clear, you're gonna give Bill permission to represent you.
And do it under the auspices of the town and have them come here.
Right. I'll set up the meeting, and whoever wants to come can come.
Does it? Yeah.
I'm gonna just add 2 things if
Yep.
that's okay, Sean. One, Bill, I did get your email, but I brought it to the select board tonight because I needed their direction, whether they would support this process. So I'm glad that you brought it up here tonight. But here's the thought, I mean, do you wanna do it at a select board meeting, do a work session so that you can be part of the conversation? But
We really need
That's,
data, strong information, and be prepared to have the conversation.
yeah, I actually like that. I like that a lot, actually. I don't know why I didn't think of that. That's why you're,
That's why we hired her.
yeah. Yeah, so then we would, it doesn't have, the problem is getting us together.
I mean, it could be your 5 o'clock work session, we
Yeah.
just wouldn't, we would try to hold the non-public items.
Yeah.
But we could do a 5 o'clock work session, I don't think it would be more than an hour conversation. Pretty much you get your points across and they listen.
Right. So it would either be,
Well, a work session for us to get prepared for that. A work session for us before we meet with anyone else. That's what we're saying.
No, I was suggesting you invite them to a work session
Okay.
with the board.
yeah.
Well, you invite this one who would have to sit on the opposite side of the table.
Right. So we'd be looking at, are you talking about for the 19th?
I mean,
Or maybe we do something on the 26th?
I mean, I'm sure John Sellers and I have pretty open schedules, but the executive council's
Right.
a different story.
you'd have to give them a couple of dates.
That's what I'm thinking, either the 19th or the 26th.
And anyone from DOT, or would that be counterproductive?
I don't.
I would also ask the Lakes Regional Planning Council TAC representative to come, because
Isn't that
it's
you?
a new person, but that person, I've been on the TAC for the last 7
Yeah.
years. And they are supposed to represent us as well on these budget issues
Yeah.
with the DOT.
So the TAC has a lead that goes to these budget issues?
Yes.
That brings your information up?
Well, I mean, the TAC is a Transport Advisory Committee that's on Everett Regional Planning Council.
Yeah.
And the members of the TAC vote every year on these projects. And we order these projects, and we've been lucky enough to get ourselves up on that list,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Because of bird dogging and persistence. And now there's other towns that are coming on, but we now have a new TAC person on the Lakes Regional Planning Council. The other person retired. So we now have a new representative, but they have told me they would like to be involved in our negotiations.
I don't see any problem
with
with
the
having.
DOT.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with having
So
that.
I would like to
Yeah.
ask that person as well.
Yeah. I think the key is going to be,
I think the 19th might be a little too soon.
Yeah.
It's only 2 weeks, so.
and I think the key is going to be Councilor Kenny's.
No, I agree.
schedule.
And
Yeah.
his schedule is gonna be,
Yeah.
that will be pivotal on our
Yeah.
date selection.
Okay. And, if folks if it ends up being outside of a regular meeting and folks have other commitments, that's perfectly fine. I'm available and can do that. Yeah.
So if at all possible, we'll try to do it on a Thursday,
Yeah.
for the select board
Yeah.
meeting. But if not, then we'll work with different schedules.
Work with Councilor Kenny's schedule.
Right, Thursdays are legislative sessions, so
Yeah.
they say they like them to end early, but John and I, you would never know for sure
Right.
about that.
Right.
So we,
Well, what I could do is propose those dates and then say, if these dates are unacceptable to you,
Yeah.
please give us a date.
Right. Yep.
So I wouldn't do the 19th, I think that's too
That's
quick,
quick.
and we do
Yeah.
have some non-public already for that
Yeah.
meeting. So it would be January 26th or February 2nd.
Okay.
The January 26th is off a
Or
week,
potentially somewhere in between.
or, yeah.
or something else.
February 2nd would be the latest,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
5 o'clock?
yeah, is that, 5 o'clock work session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once you know, Bill, just let me know and I'll get it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill.
John
We-
excuse me.
Yeah, go
Sorry.
ahead.
John Sellers' committee appointment was a transportation committee, by the way. That's-
Right.
We just found that out, so.
Oh,
John Sellers' committee appointment at the legislature is on the transportation committee, so
Oh,
he will have regular connection with the chair of that committee that should be able to provide him some guidance, I'm sure. So
And you're on Fishing Game. We'll
I
talk.
am on fishing game.
And what's fishing game, and what's the other one?
Well, it's
Marine-
fishing game and marine resources
Yeah.
is one committee.
so have you had any interaction with Dan Innes, the new senator?
No, I haven't talked to him yet. No. Not
Thank you, sir.
since- Bob, good to see you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, I've spoken to him, I spoke to him last year. And he wants to be involved in.
What's that?
I said, I know the name, I can't.
He's the senator, whoever the senator is.
He's the new senator.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that,
Yeah,
but
okay.
the name is,
Yeah.
had he run previously?
No, he used to represent Rye.
Yeah.
And he moved into
Oh,
this
okay.
district.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bob
And our
Ryder
district
moved out.
changed.
yeah,
And so,
must have cashed out of Rye.
Except for being an alum of Ohio State, he's a good guy.
Okay.
He does have that one flaw, but other than that, I like him.
okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
sure.
All right. Anything else?
We just have a brief non-public.
Brief non-public under 91A.
Like
I
you're in
guess-
here.
What would it be? Is it gonna, would it be C?
They're in
Is
Hanover,
that
right?
pushing it?
Yes, it would be C, so it'd be
Okay.
91A 3-2C.
Motion to go into, yeah, I just found it. Motion to go into non-public under 91A 3C.
Second.
Carol?